Welcome to the 10th and final day of the CruiseView's beta sailing. Today I'm coming to you from the South Civic Lounge at the aft of Deck 6 on board the Grandeur of the Seas. Today was our second day at sea sailing back towards Baltimore and our fifth day at sea total of this sailing. And at noon today our location was 34 degrees and 27.4 minutes north by 75 degrees and 11.7 minutes west. At the time, our closest land was Cape Hatteras, about 50 nautical miles away. And this evening, at roughly 9 p.m., we crossed the Chesapeake Bay Bridge to enter the Chesapeake Bay on our way to Baltimore. We should be arriving at about 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and departures are set to begin at 7 a.m. Right now, we are still sailing through the Chesapeake Bay, as we will be all night. It's about a 10-hour or so journey to get from the Atlantic Ocean up to Baltimore, and the entire time there is a pilot on board to help the captain and his team navigate through this rather heavily trafficked bay area. Our weather today, we had rough seas last night, as I mentioned before ending the episode, and today though things were much better. We had smooth seas at some points, possibly the smoothest seas of the entire sailing. And we had temperatures at about 63 degrees with clear blue skies all day long. So it was a rather unusual day and certainly not what anybody was expecting for being this far north and pretty much off the coast of Maryland for the afternoon. But it still was a little chilly when the wind was blowing. But if you stayed somewhere without wind, it was surprisingly warm. The sunrise this morning was at 6:59 a.m. and sunset came at 5:14 p.m. Tonight in the main dining room for the final meal of the cruise was casual night. The final featured spice is pomodoro, a classic tomato that has become the cornerstone ingredient to many dishes in Italy and Greece. The chef's inspiration starts with eggplant and Kalamata olive tartare, or chilled pineapple and leech soup, rosemary lamb shank for the entree, and ends with a Williams pear chocolate crisp. And now on to the final compass summary of the sailing, the 10th and final compass we received. And today there was about an hour of different demonstrations in the Centrum, starting at 10 a.m. with a towel folding demonstration, and then 10:45 it was followed up with a napkin artistry with Daryl lesson. And then at 11 o'clock in the Palladium Theater was the Captain's Corner. Probably the most anticipated event of any sailing for anybody who cares about Royal Caribbean or the cruising industry. And as usual, is a mix of the amateur questions that everybody knows the answer to and some of the more difficult questions that really challenge them to come up with some kind of answer. And of course, you can check out the entire Captain's Corner video to see just what all those questions and answers were, including a few related to the fire that occurred in May, the sailing after I departed.
Well, first we hear the chief engineer. He was on board, so maybe he can say a few words about it.
Yeah, I was on board in that time and got to wake up at 2:30 in the morning, and like everybody else who was on board. And, of course, it was a big fire, and we fighted. Our mobile teams were there almost 4 hours, and same amount of time the guests were mustered in the promenade deck, and everything went very smoothly. Everybody was following the orders and so on, guests and crew. So that is the one thing that why we are practicing this and why it's mandatory.
And why guest muster is mandatory?
And then at 1 o'clock this afternoon was the World's Sexiest Man competition hosted by Daryl in the Centrum. It was a little chilly outside, so it was a good thing they planned it in there rather than the pool deck as it often would be scheduled. And then 5 p.m. tonight was the Summer Breeze Singer Set with Jessa and Michael, and that took place in the Centrum. And unlike in May, they decided to separate the little sun aerial performance from the set. So at 7:45 and 9:45 tonight, they performed that little bonus aerial song in the Centrum. It was only one song, roughly 5 minutes in length, and of course you can check out the video to see just what it was. It's not a full-length show like the Seasons was, but it was still just as good a song, just much shorter since it wasn't a whole series of songs. And then tonight at 8:30, the main show for the first seating was the farewell show, which featured comedian Billy Washington, who we first were introduced to at the adult comedy session the other night. And it was possibly the best farewell show I've seen in a long time. Jeffrey Arpin really took hold of the show and made it his own. Didn't use any kind of graphics as we're used to seeing, those bullet points that pop up in those stock PowerPoints, and cruise directors just going through a list of the stupid questions people asked. He really sort of had it free-flowing and just worked in a couple of those stupid questions right into the conversation, and it really sort of fit in and felt like a true farewell to the guests that was meant just for us rather than a performance they always do. And then following Billy Washington's comedy bit, they had a huge closing with a video of all the different crew members on board the ship, and you could tell it was filmed within the past sailing or two. It wasn't all this sailing, but definitely within the past sailing or two, as they had the Christmas decorations up in a couple of the shots, but you could recognize that everybody in that video was in fact on board this sailing as well. And then at the end, they integrated the International Crew Flag Parade, which of course you can see the full video of the one from May that took place in the Centrum. This time it was part of the farewell show, and a whole load of crew came out with all their national flags waving, so it was a really interesting event to see, and it really gave a lot of power and a lot of excitement and energy to what's normally a rather dull and routine farewell show. And then, to follow that up, as if anyone could, they threw another round of karaoke, the final karaoke of the sailing at 10 p.m. right here in the South Pacific Lounge. Now on to the final venue tour of this sailing. Tonight, we're going to take a look at all the fee dining venues, including Chops, Giovanni's Table, and Cafe Latitudes. In addition to the a la carte Azumis, which was covered on day 5, the Grandeur offers 2 traditional cover charge dining venues, both added with the 2012 revitalizations. Chops Grill, located directly off the aft stairwell on the port side, is Royal Caribbean's signature steakhouse. It features a menu of seafood, chicken, and of course, steak options in a rather small but long venue that seats just 74 guests with expansive sea views. Chops Grill has a smart casual dress code and is available for dinner each night from 5:30 to 9 p.m. with a cover charge of $30. On sea days, the venue will occasionally open for a special lunch service as well with a discounted cover charge. The second premium dining option is Giovanni's Table, a family-style Italian eatery that was first introduced along with the Oasis class as a replacement to Portofino's. Giovanni's can be easily missed as it's tucked away in a hallway off of the Schooner Bar on the way to the South Pacific Lounge. It features a menu of traditional Italian classics as well as a small selection of steak, seafood, and chicken options. Similar to Chops, it's a small venue with seating for just 84 passengers, but with a more square layout there are still tables with expansive sea views, but also a large number tucked away in more secluded corners. Giovanni's operates for dinner daily from 5:30 to 9 p.m. with a $20 cover charge, as well as for lunch on sea days with a $15 cover charge. If you're just looking for a snack, the Grandeur also offers Cafe Latitudes on deck 6 of the atrium. Operating as a single venue, it actually has 3 distinct sections. The first section serves premium coffee with a selection of Starbucks items available for a fee. The middle section is then often passed by, but actually has a selection of cookies and pastries available that are complimentary. The final section then offers a selection of Ben & Jerry's ice creams, once again, all at a premium cost. All 3 sections operate as one unit every day from 6:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. So now as we slowly start to bring this final day of the CruiseView's beta sailing to a close, I want to take a look at tomorrow. As I said earlier, we're currently in the Chesapeake Bay on our way to Baltimore. We should be there early in the morning. And unfortunately, while we've had some bad weather, and it looked like today we actually had some of the best weather at sea of the entire sailing, there's a huge snowstorm coming. It looks like starting between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning in Baltimore, they're going to get 4 to 8 inches of snow, and then for me back home about 2 hours away, it'll start between 9 o'clock and noon in the morning, and we'll get about 4 to 6 inches of snow. So as the Grandeur sets sail tomorrow night on her next voyage, she'll have a nice coating of snow on the top deck, and hopefully all those people can make it to the ship and everyone on board right now can make it off. But let's just take a look back at some of the great moments from the past 10 days on board the Grandeur of the Seas. So we started on January 11th in Baltimore, and we hit some rough seas sailing down the coast into the Gulf of Mexico on our way to Cozumel, Mexico, Georgetown, Grand Cayman, which was rescheduled to the other side of the island, and of course Falmouth, Jamaica, the port that Royal Caribbean built itself, and Labadee, Haiti, which of course looks nothing like it used to be when it was first opened, before heading back up to Baltimore where we are now. And of course along the way we've had some great departures and arrivals to ports. We've done a ton of ship spotting. We've seen some huge ships like the MSC Divina. We've also seen some tiny ships like the Ida Bella. And we've looked at all the different various venues on board the Grandeur of the Seas, including, of course, South Pacific Lounge, the Centrum, and the pool areas. And we've enjoyed a whole variety of events, including the 50s and 60s sock hop, the 70s Disco Infernal, the Captain's Welcome Reception, and of course today, the Captain's Corner.
Thank you.
So as one sailing comes to an end, we can always look forward to the next one, which will be the Quantum of the Seas this November. On November 23rd, 2014, will be the 8-night inaugural Bahamas sailing, which goes down to Port Canaveral, Nassau, Bahamas, and Coco Cay, Bahamas, Royal Caribbean's private island, departing out of Cape Liberty. And that should be an interesting series of videos, especially Nassau, where the Quantum, Royal Caribbean's latest and largest ship, will be docked alongside the Carnival Dream and the Norwegian Breakaway, the largest and greatest ships from both of those two lines. So that'll certainly be an interesting sight to see for the first time ever. And then following that, I'll be staying on board for an additional 11-night sailing on December 1st down to Martinique, St. Kitts, Barbados, St. Martin, and San Juan. So be sure to check back in November and December as that whole series of the official first sailing of the CruiseView takes place. And of course by then we'll see how these videos turn out and we'll be able to adjust things. Hopefully I'll have actual lapel mics and be able to get some real interviews in here and make things a little better. But that's the whole reason this was a beta sailing, to see exactly what it would take to pull this off and what things we could do to improve so that we didn't just go into Quantum and mess it all up then when it really counted. So thank you for coming along with me, watching all these videos. Be sure to check out all the other videos in the series, and hopefully you'll subscribe and stay tuned for November.